Happy weekend, my MPP peeps. Welcome to another edition of the Weekend Free-for-All. This is just an example of what you'll receive each and every day as a member. So if you like what you see today, go to northpostpartners.com, sign up for the trading service. It's only $50 a month. First month is free. You'll get all of our ready-to-rock trade setups each and every day. You'll get access to our educational videos, which will help you become a more successful trader. And you'll have access to our live Zoom meetings twice a day, each and every day, so that you can ask questions and I will answer them live. All right, let's get down to business. First, the S&P. We're consolidating above this 200 SMA, above the 10 SMA. A very, very bullish consolidation all week, though it did feel very choppy. There's nothing to get bearish about. As long as we stay above this 10 SMA, I'm looking for 3250 first. And then if we can get above that 3250, next stop, I know it sounds unbelievable, but the next stop is up here at 3400. All right, so as long as we hold this 10 SMA, it could go to 3400. However, if we fall below the 10 SMA and then lose the 200, I'm looking for 2835 as a place to start loading up for a dip buying opportunity. All right, next up we got the Qs. Qs are the strongest indice there is, and it is bull flagging up here, holding the 10 SMA, even though we got a scare last week. You can see we almost came down and closed below the 10 SMA, but the bulls held it. And the next stop, if the bulls want to take this further, is 282. All right, however, if we do lose this 10 SMA and lose last week's lows, we'll probably come down here to 245. And that would be an excellent place to start looking to buy the dip. However, we could fall a little bit further to the 230 area. All right, but one of these two places, if we are lucky enough, 245 or 230, if we are lucky enough to get one of these areas, I think it's a great, great opportunity to buy the dip. Next up, we got the IWM. Nice bullish close above the 200 SMA this week. This is very good for the other indices because we need the IWM if we want to get bigger rallies in the S&P and the QQQs. So this is a really good start. Would like to see this hold the 200 SMA and then test this 0.786 retrace from this high to this low at 154 and see if we can start building above the 200 SMA to head higher. Next up, we got the Dow. Dow's looking good as well. Closed above the 200 SMA, testing this 0.786 retrace again. Next up is the 0.886 retrace around 282. So let's see if we can continue to build above the 200 SMA as well. All right, let's get to some individual names that I like. And just to let you guys know how I trade, I look for names that are in strong uptrends and that are pulling back to a major retracement level and then breaking down trend lines and starting to head higher. And then I have higher targets that I trade for. Okay, the first one that matches this criteria is DKNG DraftKings. It's pulling back nicely after a strong uptrend, breaking this downtrend line and closing above the 10 SMA. I really like this name for a long, and my target is 53. My stop is always a close below the 10 SMA, which currently stands at 32.46. All right, next up, we got TMUS. Okay, T-Mobile. Nice, strong uptrend here, pulling back to the 0.236 retrace from this low to this high. And if we can get a close back above the 10 SMA, which currently is at 105.71, we can get a close back above that next week. I'm going to go long for a target of 116, 123. And then a stop will be a close back below that 10 SMA. Next up, we got Redfin, RDFN. Nice strong uptrend, pulling back to the 0.236 retrace from this low to this high and breaking the downtrend line, closing above the 10 SMA. This is a long for me, and I'm looking for 49.50 as a target. Stop is a close back below the 10 SMA, which is currently 38.65. Next up, we got TNDM. This one, strong uptrend, closing back above the 10 SMA on Friday. We actually got long on Friday. I'm looking for 115, 120 as a target, and a stop is a close below the 10 SMA, which is currently 100.91. Next up, we got net. Okay, this one has been in a nice uptrend. Is pulling back as of late, but starting to break this downtrend line, a close back above the 10 SMA at 37.62. I'm going to get long for the next wave up, where I'm targeting 47.48. And a close would be a stop. A stop would be a close back below the 10 SMA, which would be at 37.62. Next up, we got Beyond Meat. This one, nice strong uptrend, pulling back, trying to form some sort of double bottom here at the 0.382 retrace. That was from this low to this high. So if we can get a close back above this downtrend line, back above the 10 SMA, I would target 198 for the next wave higher, and a stop would be a close back below the 10 SMA, which is currently at 134.96. All right, next up, we got FSLY. Okay, this one, super strong uptrend. It's nearly quadrupled since it started its run. And it's pulling back nicely to its 0.236 retrace, 0.382 retrace from this low to this high. So the next time we can close back above the 10 SMA, which is currently at 86.92, and back above this downtrend line, I'm getting long for a target of 120. Okay, and then a stop, as always, is a close back below that 10 SMA. Next up, we got JPM. Okay, if the S&P wants to continue rallying, it's gonna need the banks. And I like JPM. JPM has always been my favorite bank. So if we can get back above this high right here of last week of around 101.30, I'm going to get long for a retest of this 200 SMA around 114. And then a stop will be a close below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 96.19. Next up, we got AYX. Okay, super strong uptrend, pulling back to its 0.236 retrace. If it can close, get a daily close back above the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 169.43, I will get long for a move to 205, 210, okay, up to this area. And a stop, as always, is a close back below that 10 SMA, okay? Next up, we got WKHS. This thing's been on a monster tear and is pulling back nicely, nice little consolidation above its 0.382 retrace, or right at its 0.382 retrace around 15. If it can get a close back above the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 16.14, I'm going to get long with a big old target of 28. Okay, and then a stop will be a close back below that 10 SMA. Next up, we got the ILMN, alumina. This one's setting up nicely, nice consolidation up here at higher levels. If it can take out yesterday's high of 385, this one's a long for me with a target of 405. And then a stop for me will be a close below the 10 SMA at 375. Next up, we got DAL. So this is a delta. It's a recovery, a Corona recovery play. So it's starting to break this triangle pattern, trying to break above it. If it can get back above last week's high of 28.88, this one's a long for me with a target of 40. and a stop will be a close below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 27.10. Next up, we got Boeing, BA, another recovery play, trying to break this triangle pattern it has going. If it can get back above last week's high of 189.53, I'm going to take it for a long, and my target is 240. And a stop will be a close below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 179.65. Next up, we got YY. Okay, really like this strong uptrend pulling back to its 0.382 retrace. If it can hold that and then close back above its 10 SMA, currently at 83.29, I'm going to get long and go for this 107 target. And then a stop for me will be a close back below that 10 SMA. Next up, we got ESTC. Big strong uptrend here, pulling back nicely to its 0.236 retrace from this low to this high. If it can get back above the 10 SMA, which is at 92.42, back above this downtrend line, then I'm going to take it for a long with a target of 108, and the stop will be a close below, back below that 10 SMA. FIVN, another name, strong uptrend, pulling back to its 0.236 retrace from this low to this high. We can get a daily close back above the 10 SMA, currently at 114.69. I'm getting long with a target of 130. And then a stop would be a close back below the 10 SMA. Lastly, we have VERI. This one, strong uptrend, pulling back to its 0.50 retrace. If it can hold that 0.50 retrace, close back above this downtrend line, I would get long with a big old target at 25.31. And then a stop, as always, will be a close back below the 10 SMA. All right, guys, so I always trade names that are in strong uptrends, pulling back, and then finding support at major fib level, and then starting to see a rise. That's where I buy, and then I go for higher targets. And what that does for me, it creates an excellent reward to risk scenario. My reward is always great, and my risk is always very little. When you buy these dips, your risk is little, because if it closes back below that 10 SMA, right around where you bought, you're out. Okay, you lose very little when you have a losing trade, and you make a ton when you have a winning trade. That's my system. Okay, guys, I want to take you through your names that you gave me. Let's go through a few of yours. Okay, these first set of names are from Nawil Hassan. You wanted me to look at WIT. You know, like this name, is gapped up above the 200 SMA. So I think the next target for me would be the 0.786 retrace from this high to this low at 417, and then 439 is the 0.886 retrace. All right, so you know, I think this one's a buy with a stop on a close below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 350. So not the best reward to risk. Okay, you got some risk here because of all this space between the 10 SMA. But if you like this name, I do think it's worth a trade to the 417, 439 level. Next, you got SNE, Sony. This one, strong, above its 200, above its 10. My next target will be 88. And then a stop would be a close below 73.35. So decent reward to risk right here. Next up, you got MRAAY, Murata Manufacturing. This one looks good, holding above the 200 SMA. My next target would be 1950 with a stop on a close below the 200 SMA, which is right at 1405. Okay, so really good reward to risk. Nice setup. IOLCP. Okay, IOL Chemicals. I like this name. Pulling back to its 0.382, 0.50 retrace, and now starting to get upward momentum again. So I think this one is a long. And the target for me would be 990, and a stop will be a close below the 10 SMA at 632.60. So really good reward to risk in this one. Next up, you got SOLARA, SOLARA. Another decent name above the 200 SMA. I would wait for a close above the 10 SMA, which is at 650.51. So if you can get a close above that, a daily close, you take this one for a long for target 950, and then a stop is a close back below that 10 SMA, a daily close back below the 10 SMA. All right, next up we got Wings of Fire. Wings of Fire, you requested INFY, super strong name. It's gapped up huge over the 200 SMA, over the 10 SMA. You know, this one, the reward to risk is about even. So if you like this name and you don't mind the risk, which is all the way down here to the 10 SMA around 1088, that will be your stop. You can go for this 14 target. All right, but ideally it pulls back a little bit and gives you an opportunity to buy closer to your stop, so you're not risking as much. So then you can go for the 14 target. Next up, you got ANTM. This one is, you know, a lot of volatility in this name and not much upward momentum. But if you do like the name, I would wait for a close above the 200 SMA, which is at 271.19 right now. And if it can close above that, then you can maybe shoot for this 330 target, which is the 0.618 retrace from this low to this, from this high to this low. And then a stop, once you get back above this 200 SMA, a stop will be a close, a daily close back below the 200 SMA. Okay, because you don't want to be in any name below its 200 SMA. Next up, we got, or you have CTSH. CTSH, nice move back above this 200 SMA. We have this ascending triangle pattern that is broken. And next target is 67.68. Okay, I like this setup, really nice. And then a stop will be a close back below the 200 SMA, which is at 58.30. So you know you got some really good you got a nice reward to risk setup. You got about 7 points of reward for only 4 points of risk. So decent reward to risk setup here. Next up, you got LLY. This name looks pretty good. It is above its 10 SMA. So for me, it's a go. It's a go for a long, and I would go for this 180 next target. And then a stop for me would be a close back below that 10 SMA. Next up, we got INTC. You have INTC. This one has been really volatile of late and has gone nowhere. If you want to go in for a trade, I would wait for a move back above this last week's high, which was 59.25. Sorry, it was 60.62. You can get it back above 60.62, a close back above that. Then you can go for this target of 70. All right, and then I would make your stop a close below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 59.01. All right, last but not least, we have Dan and TO. Dan's a member. What's up, Dan? You got AZN. So AZN's been on a tear. A lot of volume coming in. It's very overbought right now. And we're testing this 0.1618 retrace from this high to this low, and also the 0.618 retrace from this high to this low. So ideally, I would like to see a little bit of a consolidation here before I got long to work off some of these overbought levels. And then I do think this is a good long for a target of 76. And then you'd make your stop a close below the 10 SMA, which currently sits at 55.32. Next up, you got LMT, Lockheed Martin. This one I'm not as keen on, but it is breaking downtrend line, and it is above the 10 SMA. So if you want to take this for a trade, I would go for this, a touch of this 200 SMA at 383 and make your stop a close below the 10 SMA, which is currently at 356. And then next up, you got CVS. Not a huge fan of this one at all, to be honest. I would only take the trade if it could get a close, a daily close above this downtrend line. Okay, and if it does get a close above this downtrend line, then you can go for like, you know, a 70, 80 target with a stop on a close back below the 200 SMA. Okay, but I wouldn't touch this name until it shows some strength above this downtrend line. All right, guys, well, that's the show. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back again in 2 weeks for another weekend free-for-all. And until then, remember, don't trade for thrills. Just consistently make those dollar bills.